What am I missing? Hey guys. I feel like it's been forever since I just sat down and had a conversation about my plants. It's what I'm craving. It's what I'm craving right now. It is that time of year where I find myself really honing in and seeing where I can improve from the past year. With us about to go into 2025, I'm feeling like all types of like sentimental and I don't know, like I want to heal. I'm ready to heal. As I'm going around and like watering and maintaining all of my plants in my collection, I've just been trying to really hone in on each individual one and like have a heart to heart. I'm sure a lot of you can relate, but once you get to a certain amount of plants, care can become a lot. It can be a total time suck, and I love plant keeping so much, but there are other things I want to be doing with my time too, you know? I don't want to take care of plants every spare minute I get. Moral of this whole long-winded story, I am downsizing my plant collection. I'm doing one final downsize of my plant collection. I'm hoping, hear me out, I'm hoping to be closer to the 25 plant mark. And right now I would say I'm around the mark. So I have a little ways to go. Where was I going with that? Let me gather my thoughts on the plants a little bit and tell you guys about the sponsor of today's video, Mudwater, who I'm sure you've seen on my channel before. Something about me, I constantly have something on my hand to sip on, whether it be coffee, tea, water, chocolate milk, Diet Coke. I love to go about my daily business with a drink in hand, and Mudwater has been a really awesome addition into my like beverage repertoire, because as much as I like habit and routine, sometimes it is fun to just switch up those little things. For a while, I was like my morning latte and my afternoon 2 times a day coffee drinker. No more. I realized that having more than 1 cup of coffee a day for me, I start to get jittery, which leads to a little bit of anxiety. I feel on edge. This is where Mudwater truly has saved me. I can still have a second comfort drink of the day. It has a fraction of caffeine as a cup of coffee and very functional ingredients. Each ingredient is added for a benefit. Lion's mane for focus, or reishi for an immune system boost. This truly makes me feel good, but I'm also going to be able to sleep later. Important. They do donate monthly to psychedelic research, which could very well be a very effective tool for treating mental health conditions. I'm so happy to support a brand like that. I'm happy that they bring me a little daily dose of comfort whenever I need it. I can sip on my Mudwater and not feel guilty about it and know that I'm going to feel really good afterwards. So like what's not to love? Mudwater is offering you 15% off along with a free frother. Go to mudwater.com/HarliG. That will be down below if you want to take advantage of that 15% off and get a free frother while trying out Mudwater. Huge thank you to Mudwater for sponsoring a portion of today's video. With all that being said, let's get back into the plants. Finally, okay, I could blab on forever. Today, I want to show you all of the plants that through these one-on-one, heart-to-heart little plant care sessions, these are the plants that make me feel good. They're my favorites. I love taking care of them. I love puttering around and watering them. And when I look at them, they don't give me any like ill feelings. Same can't be said for honestly majority of my collection, but I am not in a place to talk about that today. If I'm being honest with you, I just need to find the words for myself before I can say them, because I do have a bad habit of over speaking. I know it's a bad habit. I can't help it that in college, my professors wanted me to write 10-page papers on the same information I could have fit into 6 pages. Okay, they made me be wordy. Take it up with them. This is my bad shoulder. Philodendron Jose Bueno. 100% keeping this bad boy. I cannot shut up about this plant. I find an excuse to talk about this plant in pretty much every video I post online. I love this freaking plant. We just have 0 bad blood. The decisions I make never really impact this plant too strongly. Like it's super tolerant. It's just super tolerant. I think that's what it all comes down to. And I love not only a tolerant plant, but a plant with really unique shaped leaves. Like a plant that when you walk into a room, your eyes are immediately drawn to it and it like almost calls to you, you know? That's what a Philodendron Jose Buono does to me. There's just something about these super big, bold leaves that really grab your attention. But I also love when you get a really super close up look at this plant. It has such unique markings and coloration. Each new leaf that comes in really seems to have like its own personality. Really just so exciting and such a joy every single time this pops a new leaf, which it does super consistently because it can tolerate my home environment. I'm not gonna get into all of my home environment issues today, but definitely in the future at some point, probably when we go through my de-stash, I'll talk about all of that. But this plant never has put up a guff, no matter what. So I love it. I will keep it. I feel confident in my ability to care for this plant. We get along. We get along. And might I add that I love how big these leaves get without a moss pull. I know that we all feel some type of way about those moss pull, pristine looking large leaf plants that just look so lush and like you like just want to touch them. Maybe it's just me. The Jose Buono kind of gives me that same vibe, but without the frustration of a moss pull. Yeah. Moving these plants around is no easy feat for me right now. Like my shoulder is useless at this point. Jade, Crassula ovata. This is one of the plants that have been with me the longest through my plant keeping journey. We are, at this point, I feel pretty confident in saying we are in love, and I don't know if that's dramatic. At least it's one way. I love this plant. I really feel like plants can tell how we feel about them. Maybe even if we aren't like being totally honest with ourselves and how we feel about them. I think this Jade through it all has known how much I love it. No matter what trials and tribulations have been thrown my way, we have done okay. We've pulled through. I've looked back and tried to find a photo of this when it was really small, but it has grown significantly. And something I'm realizing that is increasingly important to me is being able to look back on any given plant in my home and be like, wow, me and this plant have come a long way. That plant is so different than when I bought it. I want to be able to see some progress. And as I've gone through my collection to downsize everything, that's something I've really kept in mind. This Jade is a plant that when I look at it, I feel good. And it really reminds me how much joy I get out of like not just daily plant maintenance, but seeing improvement in them over time. That is something I really need to be able to see. And I definitely see that with this Jade because like I said, it has grown. We've grown together and I love that. I think that is so like, call me dramatic, but powerful. That is powerful. We've stuck it through. And I know I'm getting a little too sentimental about it. So we're gonna move on. Aloe Vera. I feel like this is a plant that I honestly never really showed or talked about on my channel. As much as I really personally enjoy it, I just didn't feel like, I don't know, the internet really did. So I never really talked about it. Like it felt kind of boring to me for a long time, as much as that makes me cringe and like kind of grossed out by myself. Anyway, this is an awesome plant. Let me tell you why. Don't get me wrong. I've had my downfalls with this plant, okay? Going back a little over a year ago, fall of 2023, at the time this plant was living out on my back deck, I did something wrong with it. This aloe shriveled up and died back. I couldn't even tell you what I did wrong with it. And with as beautiful as I find this plant now and how wonderful and healthy it looks, I would never guess that a little over a year ago, this thing was like on the brink of death. But aloe is just a plant I love having in my house. It has a use, you know, and we use this on sunburns in the summer. I don't know, I just think it's really cool to be able to like, I grew this medicinal plant. I grew this, you know, we're taking care of ourselves. I don't know, it makes me feel that way. Maybe this is getting a little too weird and deep with it, but it really taught me that even with how far gone this plant looked, 2023, like I have the power to make the decision and change the reality of the situation. You know what I'm saying? This was a dead plant, near dead plant. Now it is not near dead. And it's all because of those small decisions I've decided to make in caring for it. And to me, this plant has been a little reminder that no matter how far gone a situation may seem, I have that power within me to handle it. Like I can do it. Of course, a plant is like a lot smaller of a situation to be dealing with than a lot of what like life has to throw at us, but that's truly how I feel about this. And I think for me, having a reminder like this that I am consistently caring for has been so good for me in my self-confidence. As weird as that sounds. Oh, there's a dead leaf here, but like you live and you learn. Let me have a little sippity doo-dah on my Mudwater. This is my Coral Fire Aloe. I love the stark size difference between Coral Fire Aloe and my Aloe Vera. I think it's so cute. Small as this plant may appear, I have had this plant since before I had kids. It was one of the first plants I brought into my home, and I've just really always loved the way this plant looks. Like there's just something about the really spiny shape of an aloe that I can get behind. I love it. Like, there is not a single thing about this plant I don't find cute and charming, I guess. It's kind of like the closer you look at it, the more you notice about it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what like a cool little plant. Me and this plant went through this weird thing where at one point it was quite large. Through all of this time together, at certain points, it had taken damages. One time I remember my toddler got mad at me, grabbed the plant, threw it on the ground, and a bunch of the leaves broke. And I just really started to dislike the way it looked. For a while there, my whole sole purpose in plant keeping was to see how big I could get my plants to grow. It was definitely just a phase I was going through, but for whatever reason, at some point I was just like kind of sick of it, and I decided to chop off the top portion of the plant and like start fresh with it. And we have a whole new healthy relationship, even though it isn't like a big statement plant like originally it was, or I was like really wanting it to be, or I was really hoping for it to be, even though it never really quite was. It always just looked weird and I didn't like how it looked. Anyway, it is cute. It's cute. I love it. And I love it more now as this small, little, well cared for plant. I have a whole new appreciation for it now that I give it the like respect it deserves, honestly, is what it is. Of course, I love the fact that me and this plant have been together for so long, but I also really love the fact that it is now just like this small little, like, you'd probably never notice this in my house if you came in it, to be honest. Like, this would not stand out. This plant has just made me realize that not every plant I keep in my home has to be a big statement plant. Like, I can just keep plants for me that I enjoy for whatever obscure, weird reason. Like, every plant I have in my house doesn't need to be a like viral, doesn't need to be a plant that's going to like skyrocket my YouTube plants thing. And actually, that's how I like it. That's how I like it. My plants are for me, and I kind of lost sight of that. My channel kind of blew up for a second there, and I got scared, and every sane, rational thought in my mind went out the window, truly. Well, not all of them, like, no, that's not true, but I'm sure you get what I'm saying. Coral Fire Aloe. Next, it's no secret that I love Syngoniums. They are my plant. I love the way they look. I love their growth pattern. They come in such varieties. I think they're really fun to maintain, and where they aren't necessarily like low maintenance plants by any means, there's a lot about their care that I really enjoy. If I'm feeling in a tinkery mood outside of the regular routine, like watering and fertilizing, if I want to propagate a plant, Syngoniums are the plant. This one here is a strawberry ice. This one here, green spot or green splash. There's just something about the coloration of each of these Syngoniums that I really love. And although I have experienced many Syngoniums in my plant keeping journey, these are the two Syngoniums that I know are going to stick around. I would be so sad if anything happened to these because, like I said, like a huge part of plant keeping for me has been propagating, and you know, with like my plant shop and stuff, that kind of got a little bit crazy for a second, but I'm now realizing I really just want to propagate my favorite plants. Like, I don't want to do any more than is fun for me. I don't want my plant keeping hobby to be too much of a side hustle that I can't even like enjoy it anymore, that it becomes a full-time job, which it did, and that scared me away. So like with this plant collection downsize, it really is more about making my plant collection more like honed in on me and my desires. And these are a couple of Syngonium I am 100% going to be keeping. You will see these. You will see these through the year in my household. Even through my de-stash finale, you'll be seeing these, okay? They're gonna be around. They're gonna be around. They're just so much fun. And on the topics of Syngonium, there is my Syngonium white butterfly, which 100% I will also be keeping. This is the plant that started it all for me. 2 cuttings from my grandma's Syngonium white butterfly. Her plant, I remember walking into her kitchen and seeing just this like super full and lush and like so perfect white butterfly Syngonium. And I don't know, just taking care of this plant makes me really happy. Although I will say right now it is a little bit overgrown. Something about Syngoniums to me, like how we were talking about the maintenance, is they do get a little bit unruly and need some extra maintenance. So these are plants that I really like to grow big, propagate back, and then kind of like start fresh with them. Syngoniums are my go-to for this, for sure. I love this whole like grow out, propagate, start fresh process with them. So that is something I will definitely be like doing, keeping in my collection going forward. Speaking of my Syngonium white butterfly, we'll move into the like plants I'm keeping, but I didn't like want to move. Really any hanging plant I have around the place I'm going to be keeping. So like my philodendrons, I mean, I have a couple of I have 3 philodendrons here and a golden pothos. I will be keeping my golden pothos here on my countertop, the neon pothos in my bedroom and bathrooms. Those are all going to be staying in my collection. They're just like so easy, and I literally just have to water them and like fertilize them and I'm good. They hardly ever, I don't even repot them every single year and they do just fine. So those will all be staying. I'll also be keeping this monstera. It has grown in more beautifully than I ever imagined it would. Again, with the like new leaf personality that I'm always excited to see. This is a plant that every time it pops a new leaf, it's a very big ordeal in my life, something I celebrate and get very excited by. So I would not want to be getting rid of this monstera energy in my plant collection. So it will for sure be staying. All right, next, this Idania glauca. As much as I have struggled with my Codex plants, with any Codex plants I've really tried, this one I just don't see myself parting ways with. For some reason, it reminds me of the tree stars on Land Before Time, which is like a super nostalgic movie for me. So I don't know, there's something about that to it that I love. I don't know. I just like, I can't even put words to it. I just really am drawn to this plant. So it is one I'm going to be keeping around. I'm going to put a lot of energy into taking care of this and making sure that it's in an environment that it can properly grow in. I think that is a struggle I've had in my last year of collecting, if I'm being totally honest. Again, we'll get into that. Like, I do really foresee myself giving the right energy to my plants this year. Like, I think I finally just have a better outlook and energy toward my plant keeping like hobbies. So, but isn't it cute? This is my holiday cactus, I believe Thanksgiving. It is in full bloom right now. By far is the best indoor blooming plant I've personally ever experienced. Blooming plants are ones I do feel like I've tried to dabble in more and more. Like I've tried a lot of different blooming varieties. I don't know why I was searching so far and wide for like the perfect blooming plant, because to me, this plant is it. It is easy care, pretty much year round, throws a couple of blooms. Definitely come whatever season your holiday cactus variety blooms, you will get a display, okay? It is so beautiful. It's so rewarding, and plants like this that seem to extra pop off certain times of year or throw a little something extra at me really keep me in the hobby, truly. Plus, it doesn't disagree with my home environment. So that's always a bonus, because a lot of plants disagree with my home environment. Rude. Definitely also keeping my Monstera Stanleyana Aria. Oh, I feel very similarly about this plant as I do those two Syngoniums I showed you earlier. I love seeing what each new leaf brings and how like that new leaf really changes the overall look of the plant. I love the leaf shape and growth pattern and like overall just shape of the plant, really. But I guess there are a lot of plants that I feel that way about, but this one in particular, I love the color. The color of it is just so vibrant. It's just so bright. It like really stands out. For me, it has been a plant that has been easy to keep happy and to grow well, even in my unfavorable home environment. I will definitely be keeping this one. It's also really fun and easy to propagate. So I love that. It's a really fun one to like spread around to people, and people seem to get really excited by it. So I get it. It also, I get excited by it. Like I want to keep this energy. I want to keep the energy this plant brings into my life. It's a good energy for sure. So it's staying. It is staying. Those are all of my favorite plants. And I feel comfortable calling them my favorite plants because they are the ones that if I had to declutter my collection today, I would get rid of everything else except for the ones I've just shown you and talked about. Exceptions being my sentimental plants, which I do at this point have a few of them. My Syngonium white butterfly we talked about earlier is definitely a sentimental plant. These sentimental plants to me are very, I don't know, I have like kind of a weird relationship with my sentimental plants. Like my sentimental plants, I feel a different level of responsibility than the rest of my plants. So where I do love my sentimental plants, it's not necessarily like as much of a fun experience keeping those sentimental plants. It is rewarding in a different way. But yeah, like my sentimental plants aren't necessarily even in my top favorite plants, if I'm being totally honest, but they are ones that I do feel a lot of responsibility for. All the sentimental plants in my home that I will be keeping are my Dancing Bones cactus here was a gift from a subscriber, and it quickly became a favorite plant of mine. Like I just really feel like I bonded with this plant. Like as weird as that sounds. Do you guys feel like you bond with your plants? It was so nice of Ashley to send this to me as a cutting off of her grandma's plant, and just like the backstory of these sentimental plants do bring extra sentiment to me for sure. So that's important to me. The coffee plant I recently introduced into my home, it is a sentimental plant. Right now I'm not properly enjoying this plant because it did arrive to me a little bit like spindly and just needing a little bit of TLC, but I'm willing to give it that TLC because of the backstory, you know? So even though I don't necessarily like super enjoy the plant, I am embracing the responsibility of the plant, and hopefully I'll see a great outcome this time next year. Hopefully I can show you that coffee plant and be like, yeah, and feel really proud of what me and the plant have gone through in that year to like get to a healthy point. You know what I'm saying? That one will be staying. What else? I definitely have another one. Oh, my grandma's Begonia maculata whitei. Of course, keeping that. This is one of my, if not my most important plant, because it's actually my grandma's plant from her own collection that she was keeping in her west-facing laundry room. In a really bright, well-lit spot. And I just love thinking about my grandma, taking the time to water this plant and like really spending time caring for this plant. Like it just makes me feel close to my grandma. And every time I look at it, I think of my grandma, and I never And I will never give that up. Addressing the elephant in the room, I did have to cut this back. It got super top heavy this summer. It touched the ceiling and then it toppled over. It got way too top heavy, so I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna cut it back, start fresh from the top of the planter and keep on going. Don't worry, I also have some backup propagations just in case, but like the plant's gonna be fine from being chopped back. It's gonna be fine. It just got messy and I needed to do something about it. This is a plant that I enjoy maintaining. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel happy to remember my grandma. And yeah, I will not be getting rid of it. So outside of that, anything is fair game in a D-stash at this point. I feel very confident in being able to really confident in addressing the way I honestly feel about each of my plants in my home. So come D-stash, like really anything outside of what I've shown you today is fair game. At the moment, I'm just really trying to set some boundaries, I guess, or like ground rules for my plant collection. So it's not just like consuming my whole life. I definitely need it to be in an amount that I'm not spending every second of my life caring for. And I don't even know what that clear boundary is yet. I don't know what my like time limit is or what the number of plants that I can fit into that boundary are, you know what I'm saying? The only other rule I really have is each of my plants to be able to feel the warmth of the sunlight on their leaves. And yes, I do supplement with grow lights, but any of my plants that I cannot fit into a spot that receives at least a little natural light every single day, it has to go. I'm no longer going to rely just on grow lights. I really think it's important for my plants to experience, like there's just an energy about the sun. I love being in the sun. My plants need to be in the sun. That's something I feel strongly about. Those are the two things I really have in my head right now, but I am setting boundaries like that for myself, you know, as I go into this season of D-stash, this January, February, March is what I'm giving myself to really figure this out. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Those are all the plants I'm going to be keeping. I know I have babbled on for so long. I'm sure you could tell I'm actually sick right now and my voice is going away. It's going away just from over talking, overuse. I love to talk. Give me a microphone and a 12-hour attention span and I will fill that 12 hours with some words. I'm gonna go now. Be sure to check out Mudwater. I'm very appreciative of them. For me, Mudwater doesn't replace my coffee. It's just in addition to, so I'm not overindulging in the caffeine of coffee. Like there's a lot of caffeine in coffee, okay? It makes me be like this all day and then I can't do anything. So I'll see you next time.